How did soccer go from this to this? Like most things in history, it didn't start where you'd expect. Soccer's story begins in China, over 2,000 years ago. Bored villagers stitched together a ball from leather and stuffed it with feathers and hair. And just like that, the earliest version of the game was born. They called it Cuju. No red cards, no offside trap, just people kicking a ball between bamboo poles in the street for fun. This simple game traveled and evolved for centuries, drifting through medieval Europe in different forms. But the sport we recognize today didn't exist yet. Fast forward to October 26, 1863, the day everything changed. In England, the Football Association was formed, and for the first time, the rules were written down. No carrying the ball with your hands, no violent tackling. A rough version of the offside rule appeared. With standardized rules and the reach of the British Empire, the game spread across the globe at incredible speed. By May 2004, 1904, FIFA was founded. Clubs started forming leagues. Rivalries were born. The sport was gaining real structure. Then, in 1930, the first ever World Cup was played, and soccer stopped being just a pastime, it became a global event. But the good times didn't last. In 1939, a war broke out that would bring the world to its knees, and soccer went with it. Competitions were canceled. Players were sent to fight. The sport hit its LOSS point in decades. Then, in 1955, a teenager stepped onto a field in Brazil and changed everything. At just 15 years old, he made his debut for Santos. 2 years later, at 17, he became the youngest player to ever appear in a World Cup. And he didn't just show up. He dominated, scoring twice in the final to become the youngest World Cup winner in history, a record that still stands today. Pelé wasn't just a soccer player. He was the sport's first true global icon. And he'd go on to win 2 more World Cups with Brazil. While Pelé was building a legacy in South America, Europe was creating its own soccer empire. The European Cup launched, bringing 16 of the continent's best teams together to compete for glory. Real Madrid won the very first edition. And then the next, and the next, with legends like Alfredo Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás, they became the first true super club, a dynasty that defined the era. As the years rolled on, soccer produced more larger-than-life stars. But in 1966, 2 players emerged who would shape the game in completely different ways. Both debuted for Manchester United and Ajax around the same time. Both were generational talents. One of them, playing for Ajax, became the face of a revolutionary idea, total football. No more long balls booted downfield. This was fluid, high-pressing, one-touch soccer. It changed how the sport was played across Europe. The other United star was just as gifted on the field, but his real passion lived off it. Fame, nightlife, everything that came with being soccer's first true celebrity. Both men retired in the 1980s, having redefined what a soccer star could even be. The 1980s brought soccer into people's living rooms like never before. Thanks to a boom in TV coverage, Italian soccer surged with a World Cup win and dominant European campaigns from its biggest clubs. But the decade's-defining moment came on July 5, 1984. When Napoli unveiled their newest signing in front of 75,000 fans, Diego Maradona had arrived, and he transformed a mid-table Italian club into champions. Not once, twice, his genius carried Napoli through its golden era. Maradona wasn't without controversy. In the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal against England, he scored a goal with his hand that the referee never caught, a moment that would live in infamy. He still went on to lift the World Cup that year, cementing his place among the greatest to ever play. But by the early 90s, off-field struggles caught up with him. A failed drug test led to a lengthy suspension, a brief comeback, another failed test, and eventually retirement by the late 90s. The 1990s reshaped the sport's foundations. Offside rules were refined. A new coach took charge at Manchester United, beginning what would become a 26-year era of dominance. The Old English First Division was rebranded as the Premier League, shifting focus toward television revenue, and that shift kicked off the era of big money in soccer. Manchester United capped off the decade with an unpreceded treble, while Real Madrid and Barcelona battled for supremacy in Spain. This decade also introduced what many call soccer's greatest generation. A brilliant young playmaker moved to Juventus in 1996 and quickly became the best in the world at his craft. Meanwhile, in Brazil, a forward with almost impossible speed and instinct was tearing up defenses. 200 career goals before turning 20, back-to-back Ballon d'Or wins. Universal recognition as the planet's best player. These two icons collided in a World Cup final, with the playmaker coming out on top. As the 2000s arrived, Real Madrid went all in on star power, assembling a lineup of the world's most famous players, the Galacticos. It brought trophies, but it also shifted soccer's focus, from pure performance to commercial spectacle. Yet there was still room for underdog stories. In 2004, a coach guided an unheralded Portuguese club through a new and likely Champions League run, knockout wins over bigger, richer teams, all the way to the title. It made him an overnight superstar in the coaching world, and he soon moved to a Premier League club that had just been bought by a billionaire owner, kicking off a new era of enormous financial investment in English soccer. Around the same time, an 18-year-old winger arrived in Manchester from Portugal. Raw, flashy, inconsistent. His coach saw the potential and worked with him season after season. The improvement was staggering. A handful of goals became double digits. Then he broke league scoring records, won league titles, a Champions League, his first Ballon d'Or, before being sold for a then world record transfer fee to Real Madrid. That transfer kicked off a decade of Spanish soccer dominance, because waiting in Barcelona was another teenager who'd break every scoring record imaginable. He'd made his debut a few years earlier after coming through the academy, and once a new coach took over the club in 2008, his career exploded. A treble followed, then back-to-back Ballon d'Ors, then 4 in a row. For a stretch, he wasn't just the best player in the world. He was operating in a different universe altogether. What followed was a decade-long rivalry that defined a generation. Trophy for trophy, goal for goal, award for award, two players pushing each other, and the sport itself. To new heights, along the way came iconic team performances, World Cup heartbreaks and triumphs, the rise of clubs backed by billionaire owners, and eventually the introduction of video review technology to the game. By the late 2010s, a new generation was already emerging. Young, electric, talented, stepping onto the same stage once occupied by the legends before them. Global superstar signings, leagues investing unprecedented amounts of money, and a new crop of young players carrying the torch forward. From a leather ball on a Chinese street to a sport watched by billions around the world, that's the story of soccer. So now I want to know, who do you think is winning the 2026 World Cup? Drop your pick in the comments below.